Welcome back to Whitney Alex Works recap of The Bachelorette Season 18, Episode 7. Hometowns have arrived, with Rodney, Nate, Joe, and Brandon all introducing their families to Michelle, hoping that they can continue to build upon their relationships and get the approval of their relatives. We start Hometown still in Minnesota as it's revealed that the men and their families are coming to Minnesota because of the bubble situation. Michelle is seen talking to Tayshia about hometown dates, with Tayshia saying that this is a pivotal week in Michelle's journey, saying that hometowns are very revealing and more intense as feelings are getting deeper. Co-host Caitlin shows up to greet the top four men and informs them that their families are here in Minnesota to support them in their journey to find love with Michelle. There is an overall happy feeling as the men know this is indeed a pivotal week in different ways, and the first hometown date goes to Brandon. Brandon is always over the moon about Michelle, and now he is preparing to introduce his mom and dad, as well as his brother, who apparently is heading off to the Navy soon, hoping that his family will approve of his relationship with Michelle. But before meeting the family, Michelle and Brandon have a day portion of hometowns where Brandon takes Michelle to an indoor skateboard park where Brandon promises Michelle a little taste of Portland, Oregon. Apparently, Brandon is a skater boy, but the whole time during the date, he is struggling to skateboard and blames it on his nerves. But Michelle and Brandon still have a great time together, coming off last week's one-on-one where Brandon confessed that he is falling in love with Michelle. And now there is a reverse family meeting where Michelle is going to meet Brandon's family this time. Brandon says he is so excited for her to meet his brother and parents, as this is a huge step in their relationship. They kiss, and by the end of the day portion, Brandon is still over the moon for Michelle. At the nighttime portion of Brandon's hometown date, it's time to finally meet Brandon's family. Michelle is wearing bright red, and so is Brandon's mom. They all greet each other, and it is a happy introduction with Michelle and Brandon recapping their time together so far. With Brandon saying that he showed up in a bed on night one, Michelle then explains that she at first thought Brandon was just a smooth talker, but Michelle says that she found out very soon that Brandon is way more than that. Michelle then talks to Brandon's brother Noah, who admits that he is a little skeptical about the process, knowing there are three other guys she is dating. Michelle understands Noah's hesitations, but they do come to an understanding that Brandon has a big heart and that they do care for each other. Michelle is then seen talking to Brandon's father, and they are hitting it off. And when Michelle talks to Brandon's mom, they too bond over their love for Brandon, as Brandon's mom also says that Brandon has a big heart and that she can see that the two of them truly care for each other. And at the end of the hometown date, Michelle gets Brandon's family's approval, but the whole time I was wondering if Michelle was wearing that bracelet Brandon gave her last week, but it didn't seem like it. Anyway, Michelle and Brandon have a bench talk where they talk about how the hometown date went, and ultimately Michelle tells Brandon face to face that she is falling for him, and they share a passionate kiss where Brandon is talking about engagement and marriage in his confessional, and whoever is next is going to have a hard act to follow. The second hometown date goes to Granny Smith or Rodney. The two greet each other with a notebook jump kiss, and Rodney informs Michelle that they are going to go apple picking for a specific apple in Minnesota called First Kiss. Rodney definitely did his homework with this date, citing Michelle's poem in the previous episodes where going to an apple orchard would mean a lot to her. Rodney and Michelle spend the day apple picking and having fun together. They throw apples like a basketball and have other blindfolded tasting food tests, this time with apples. And Rodney, at the end of the day portion, tells Michelle that he is falling for her. They kiss, and both of their feelings are growing strongly. At the nighttime portion of Rodney's hometown, Michelle is introduced to Rodney's mother and stepfather. They talk about their relationship so far, with them laughing a lot together and having fun all the time. Rodney's mother, Carrie, can tell her son is so happy with Michelle, but that fact actually worries her. She pulls her son aside and reminds him that he should be aware that there are other relationships here, and she is worried about Rodney's brokenheartedness. Rodney understands his mother's concern and he says that he knows the risk, but pursuing Michelle is worth the risk. This gets Rodney's mom even more emotional, and at the end of the hometown date, Rodney's family is still rooting for Michelle and Rodney. Michelle and Rodney head to a bench to have a talk, and Rodney tells Michelle that he is falling in love with her, and they end up kissing. But in the end, Rodney's mother, Carrie, is right, as each decision made is going to be harder than the next, with Rodney's heart and feelings on the line. Minnesota Joe takes the third hometown date and takes Michelle to his high school to start the day portion of their date. Michelle is excited to see Joe, and the two of them walk through Joe's high school where he shows her around, telling her he avoided the math and science section of the school and didn't go to the library much. But he does take her to the cool kid spot to have a sweet kiss moment, and Joe takes her to where his hotspot was in secondary school, the gym. But instead of basketball, Joe has a prom date in mind where he asked her to go to prom with him. She, of course, says yes, and they get dressed up and have a fun day dancing, kissing, eating candy, donuts, and being self-proclaimed king and queen, all the while being surrounded by a cute atmosphere of bubbles floating everywhere behind them as they kiss. But the only hiccup is that Michelle is worried that Joe hasn't fully expressed his feelings about her. Next, Joe takes Michelle to meet his family. She is introduced to his father and mother and his brother and his wife. They are all excited to meet each other as there is a common Minnesota vibe between all of them. They relish in their shared land of Minnesota, and Michelle gets to see Joe surrounded by his family. Joe and his father have a literal quiet conversation where it's obvious that emotions are not shared vocally, and Michelle talks to Joe's mother about Joe and his reservations as she informs his mom that Joe did open up to her about his struggles playing basketball and getting injured. And at the end of the night, Michelle and Joe sit down on a bench to talk, and they agree that the hometown date did go well, with Joe even telling Michelle that his feelings are growing stronger. And then Joe tells Michelle that he is falling in love with her. The two of them kiss, and in Joe's confessional, he talks about potential engagement to Michelle. And with the first three hometowns going super well, it's obvious that Michelle is going to have to make some very difficult decisions by the end of the episode. Lastly, Nate is Michelle's final hometown date, and they greet each other with a notebook jump kiss, where Michelle talks about how they share a powerful kinetic energy and they are really into each other. Nate takes Michelle to the park where he wants to simulate a day in Austin, Texas, and then they head to a lake where they paddleboard, and Michelle calls Nate out for wearing his bright orange swim trunks again, all the while they're having fun together and picturing a life beyond the Bachelorette. Before the night portion of the hometown date, Nate reminds Michelle of who she will be meeting, his mother and his stepfather, but they are no longer together, but are there to support Nate in his journey to find love with Michelle. Meeting Nate's family is a big deal because his family shows little to no emotions. There are no I love yous or talking about relationships, which worries Michelle, saying that it's a little bit of a red flag. But Nate tells Michelle again that he is falling for her, and Michelle tells Nate that she is falling for him. A lot of the men are falling, Michelle is falling, and you can say things are getting pretty messy. Michelle and Nate arrive to meet Nate's family, and they are soon introduced, with Nate's mom giving Michelle a bag of candy for her students, which Michelle said was very thoughtful. Michelle and Nate talk about their time together so far, with Michelle informing Nate's parents that she gave him the first impression rose and how they hit it off very easily. Michelle then talks to Nate's mom, and they talk about how this is a new territory for Nate, introducing a girl to his family. And Nate's mom is worried about the bubble atmosphere and how fast things are progressing. And you can say that Nate's mom has a point, considering that all of the previous quarantine Bachelorette seasons have broken up with their choices: Claire and Dale, Tayshia and Zach, and Katie and Blake. So how can Michelle's season be any different? Well, Michelle understands that feelings are developing fast, and she says she has to follow her heart, as Nate's mom tells Michelle that she doesn't know if her son is ready for an engagement. And then we see Nate talking to his stepfather, who he regards very highly, and they have a heart-to-heart talking about his feelings and being able to express them. And at first, Nate's stepdad is skeptical about the TV show Romance, even questioning if Nate's feelings are real. But Nate expresses that he is also following his heart and believes his feelings are genuine. And through it all, Nate and his stepdad have an emotional realization that they are proud of each other and value each other being in their lives. And at the end of the night, Nate's parents do end up supporting and validating their son's feelings, which is a good feeling. Then Michelle and Nate head over to have their bench talk where they both believe the hometown date went very well. And Nate talks about how he was able to open up for the first time with his parents, which makes Michelle beam. Michelle knows she is going to have to make some difficult decisions as she has to narrow down the top 4 to the final 3. She has a knock at the door, and it's Serena and Bree from Matt James's season. Both are there to offer support for her. Michelle tells Serena and Bree that she is falling for multiple men and her decisions are getting harder as she narrows down the men. She opens up about her fear that Nate is not ready for an engagement but believes the top 4 men are all quality men. It's time for the rose ceremony, and Michelle shows up saying that this is the hardest decision yet. 4 men, 3 roses. She calls Brandon's name first, then her second rose goes to Nate, and then Tayshia and Caitlin show up in matching green, saying that this is the final rose tonight. And that final rose goes to Minnesota Joe, which means Rodney, aka Granny Smith, is heading home, which is a devastating loss to Bachelor Nation, as Rodney was genuine and a sweetheart through the entire journey. Michelle walks Rodney out and they talk about her decision, with Michelle saying that her feelings are elsewhere and that Rodney as a person is enough. Rodney says that his feelings were real and that he will always have a special place in his heart for Michelle. It was a tough goodbye, as it was sad to see Rodney go, but now only 3 men remain: Brandon, Nate, and Joe, all headed to fantasy suites. But we will have to wait to see more, as next week's episode is the Men Tell All, where the eliminated men have a chance to speak out about their journey on the show. And also, before the episode ended, Clayton was officially announced as the Bachelor number 26, with the next season of The Bachelor starting Monday, January 3rd, 2022. Thank you for watching Whitney Alex Works recap of The Bachelorette Season 18, Episode 7, Hometown Dates. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe at Whitney Alex Works for more videos in the future. See you next week for the Men Tell All recap.